Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. On today's show, we are going to meet. Hang on. On today's show, there is no guest. Actually, on today's show, you're going to meet two very different kind of guests. The producers and creators of the Wings Podcast. That is Asha Agnihotri, my wife, and myself, Milind Agnihotri. Hi, Asha.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
So, Asha, today is 23rd June 2023.
Yes.
Exactly 77 weeks have passed since we launched our Wings podcast. If you remember, that was on 7th January 2022 with a curtain raiser episode where you, I, and Rahul, our son, were in conversation talking about what the podcast is all about, why are we creating it, what are our hopes, dreams, whom are we going to meet on the show. After that, we have met over 75 Fridays one amazing young Indian, a young man or a young woman, wherever he or she is. I am unable to believe that we have been able to pull it off.
Yes, of course, Milind, but I think you remember we started this process sometime October 2021. First time we just spoke to each other and we decided that this is possible. How, when, and where, all those questions were in our mind. But definitely that seed was sown at that time itself, isn't it?
Of course, I mean, we had said that in our Curtain Raiser episode, the reason why we are doing this podcast is to essentially curate and celebrate 75 stories of young Indians as our contribution to the 75th year of India's independence. The whole idea at that time, I remember you're right, October 21, we said that let's create a glimpse of today's India, assuming that it's a microcosm of the larger society that we are a part of. And through these 75 stories of 75 young Indians, let's discover the India of today.
Yes, but Milind, once again, I want to go back to October 2020 when at those 2-3 months. You clearly asked me, Asha, are you sure? Are we going to really get hold of these young minds on our show? Some 75 is not a small number. And I confidently told you, yeah, I mean, if I'll just start talking to them, I already have some 30-35 names in my mind. And I will let you know by end of November. And trust me, no exaggeration. End of November, to whoever I spoke, I could one-on-one speak to more than 30 of them. And each one of them said, this is a brilliant idea, most needed. And if you and Milind, both of you are doing it, just count us on. And I think, Milind, there I got a total confidence that 35, 30, whatever number I started with, I can easily take it up to 75. And yes, we have done it. I mean, yes, I am feeling so nice. And thanks to all the guests, whoever visited, spoke to us. They visited our studio personally, or they were talking to you over the Zoom call. It's a very different feeling.
I mean, undoubtedly, Asha. I mean, the entire credit of the Wings podcast, irrespective of the efforts of whoever are behind the show, the entire credit goes to those 75 guests we have had on the show.
Correct.
I mean, how graciously, how honestly,
How openly.
and how authentically
Authentically,
they,
correct.
they talked about themselves, who they are,
Absolutely.
where they come from, what are their roots, what are their
Correct.
upbringings, values,
Correct.
and what are their hopes and dreams, and not just that. Coupled with that, what are their fears and anxieties as they are facing the world of today? And the basic commitment that we made to ourselves, the two of us, Asha, at that time when we were designing the show, was the entire narrative of each episode will be completely controlled by our guest, because it is their story which they are willing to share by themselves, the way they want to share it.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is where I want to ask you that all the pre-production work, which is the work that went on up till the recording, was a huge body of work that you single-handedly carried on your shoulder. So, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I was interrupting you for that only. That was very interesting part, because whenever I used to approach each one of them, they used to talk to me like a friend. They used to open up. They used to share their stories, their pathos, their happy moments, everything. And then when I used to tell them, you are going to choose the topics, you are going to select whatever you want to speak on the show, and it's not going to be a Q&A kind of a session. There they used to say, oh no, but most of the shows, if they are pre-recorded or whatever, they give the set of questions and we need to prepare on that. And then the conversation begins. I said, yes, but this is not that kind of a show at all. And trust me, Milind, there, that particular point, each one of them liked it so much. I used to just brief them that many of them I knew, but honestly, almost 75% or 80% of them I didn't know them at all. I used to just begin the little conversation, then we used to exchange the WhatsApp messages, and then they used to say, okay, we will talk to each other next week, and that next week never used to come. Then nicely I used to patiently wait for 2-3 weeks, and then I used to ping them, and then I used to ask them, can we connect again? And then they used to send me some smileys or some emojis and then used to say, oh, we were so much wrapped up with the work and this and that. And listeners, here I want to say, my husband Milind, who is the host of the show, used to lose the patience. He used to ask me, what is this happening? You said this 35 are already on your list and none of them are coming on the show. We have already started the show. It's January and we have completed just 4 recordings and 4 more are there in February. But what about March? So I said, have patience. I'm in touch with them. What are you, why are you so excited about, or why are you getting some restless? So,
No, but there, Asha, I think my little risk-averse nature was playing out. Let me be very honest here. That I was very clear in my mind, and I think you and I agreed on that. That at any point in time, we will have at least 4 to 6 episodes recorded and ready, not in the release format, but the raw recording as such.
Yeah.
So that we are not struggling every Thursday or every Wednesday that, hey, this Friday we have an episode and we don't have the content. I mean, we never wanted ourselves to be in that, and fortunately, thanks to you, Asha, over 75 weeks, we never faced that issue even once. At any point in time, we had 4 to 6 episodes, at least in the raw format, recorded and ready.
Yeah. Here I definitely agree. My architectural management skills really worked well because, in my profession, how we are always on our toes. We keep promising that, finale dates to our clients, and what our workers do last minute. They just don't show up, they don't complete the work, and we keep promising. And you know me, Milind, because I'm your wife, I'm your life partner. And last 10 years, I could really get out of that trauma. I call it a trauma because meeting up the committed dates is something so important in each project. And exactly that format and that formula I used for this particular project as well.
No, I mean, of course, a lot also goes to the structure and the process and the systems that we were able to put into place. For example, I mean, over 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 6 to 8 weeks, you would move from a stage from meeting our prospective guest for the first time to a stage where the guest would have spoken to you maybe twice or thrice, some even 4 or 5 times, and agreed on what are the 3 or 4 topics that they are willing to talk about. And then you would hand over the baton to me, and I would have a prep call with them, basically because when the recording would happen, it would just be me and the guest.
Yeah.
And there had to be a certain kind of a mutual trust or understanding that had to be in place. And even though the recording was supposed to be around 40 minutes, give and take 5-10 minutes here and there, the preparatory conversations at times went on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours with the guest, because not only the guest had to be comfortable with me as the host, but I also had to get a feel of who this person is, and not just what he or she is going to talk about. So that was an intense, emotional process for me. Let me be very honest here. Not easy, though I'm talking about it effortlessly right now. But for each of those 75 episodes that we have, successfully released without a break over 75 Fridays, emotions were running very high in my mind.
Yes.
I mean, day before the recording, I would be, talking in my mind to the guest whom I had met before. Even when the recording was on, which, many of them were over Zoom, because, the guests were located in different parts of the world, be it in the US, Canada, Europe, somewhere in Asia, many in India too, but obviously not in Pune where we live. So I think barring a few who were wanting to come and do the recording at our home studio, by and large, bulk of the recordings did happen remotely. So then managing the logistics and processes of Zoom, and that was not an easy task. But even when the recording was on, there were obviously sometimes internet glitches and there's some technical issues that were there. But I think by and large we were able to overcome that. And a big shout out and thank you, Zoom. And thank you, Google, because many of our preparatory call happened over Google Meet video calls. So all the technology pieces that that we used, for example, the Rode NT USB mic that I used for recording, which I'm using it even right now. My MacBook and just about the Wi-Fi that we have. So all these elements are at the background, invisible but contributing simply by their presence, and rather I would say efficient presence. And recording itself was such a beautiful experience for me. Of course, the idea was very clear. My role as a host was to manage two set of boundaries. One was the time boundary, which is roughly 40, 45, 50 minutes of conversation. And second is the subject boundary, which we agreed with our guests. And many a times, I was tempted to go off script. You know how I am. I have the tendency to go off script. But thanks to you, I was able to kind of focus and stay with the, when I say script, is not what was being spoken, but the 3 or 4 topics. Because it was never a scripted show at all. No, it wasn't. But what I will say that it was a live drama that happened as we were talking. Maybe you can say it was a better frameworked kind of a project. Like
Earlier, I used to prepare all the guests with their topics, their limitations. I categorically used to tell them no sensational, no scandal, no advertisement. They, few of them were proper businessmen, and they used to ask me, we can't even talk about our business, and what are we going to talk? So I said, no, you can definitely talk about your profession, you can talk about your challenges, no doubt about it, but you need not specifically promote your product or your project or something like that. It's completely about you, and you just be yourself on the show. And one more thing, you asked me about the preparation time, how I spend with these young boys and girls. Uh, I learned one big thing called patience. That is a very big thing. Throughout a year, I was managing, and honestly, it is helping me in my personal life also. I thank all the 75 of them over there for teaching me patience at my such an age. It's very important at this age, and thanks to all of you, all
And
the guests.
undoubtedly, I mean, they also joined in. And, the conversation that I had with each one of them, for me, it was like uh, a tango dance that I was having with them. Uh, I was trying to sense where the other person, he or she, is coming from and respond to his or her energies. And the guest would also look at my energies, the way I was engaging with them, because honestly, I had no questions written down before any
True.
of the episodes.
Very true.
It was all in the moment as the conversation went on, as if it was a river that was flowing. And, the conversation just happened organically. In addition to all this, I want to also do a big shout out and say a big thank you to Buzzsprout, our podcast
I
hosting
agree.
partner,
Yeah.
who supported us throughout this entire journey, because podcasting is something, Asha, you and I have never done.
Never done.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have heard podcasts, but
Yeah.
we don't know how it works.
And we are on their 20 platforms, which is too much, Milind.
Yes,
All over
absolutely.
the world.
This is all thanks to Buzzsprout,
Yeah.
who held our hand and guided us through step by step, uh, right from what are the process that you have to go through when you are talking to your guests.
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you prepare yourself for the recording? What sort of environment you need to have, physical environment? What sort of setup, recording setup you need? They recommended us Audacity, and we ended up learning that. And of course, thanks to Rahul, who essentially helped us at the back end. For the first 20,
Initial
for the
days.
first, I think, 25-30 episodes.
Yes.
But he is in the US. He has a day job which keeps him extremely busy, and despite that, for the first 25-30 weeks, he supported us at the background. And then we realized that that is something which we have to take over. And he patiently taught me the entire technical process of recording, editing, finishing the episode, uploading the WAV files, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So Rahul, a big thank you to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rahul.
And as we speak, I'm looking up at some of the stats. After 75 episodes, our Wings podcast has been listened to in 6 continents, 56 countries, 765 towns and cities, thousands of listeners.
Mm-hmm.
That's where our Wings podcast, over 3 seasons of 75 episodes, has reached.
Congratulations.
To us, to all the guests, to all the listeners,
Absolutely.
for being a part of this community.
Yes. So now I want to ask you one question. How are we going to give justice to those who could not be there on our show? And I had to tell them that, yes, I will get back to you. So what am I going to tell them, Milind? You need to help me on this.
Well, the answer
So
is
do we have any plans for our listeners? Are we coming up with some new ideas? What is it?
well, the answer to the guests whom we couldn't have on the show because our original design of 75 episodes came to a closure, the answer is very simple. We will be coming up with our fourth season sometime soon. I won't be able to tell you when because we are still working on it, but we are making some changes to the design.
Yes.
All these 75 episodes up until now were a person centric conversation where I was in conversation with a guest, exploring his or her world. The new season will take a different form, that in addition to being person centric, it will also be issues centric or phenomena centric, if I can use that phrase. What are the issues that we're going to talk about? We'll announce it very soon. I won't be able to say that right now, but yes, after a short break of couple of months,
Yeah.
we will be launching our fourth season,
Yeah.
where I would be again in conversation with again a young Indian,
Yeah.
from anywhere in the world, discussing about not only who he or she is, but how are they engaging with the world that they are experiencing today in various facets of their life. That's what I'm going to say at this point in time. Because the belief that Asha, you and I have carried up until now, and we continue to hold even now and into the future, is the reason why the Wings podcast is happening, the reason why these wonderful, wonderful stories of young Indians are getting curated on this podcast, is because there is somewhere someone out there who is waiting to listen to those stories. We don't know who that person is.
Yes.
So, Asha, as we begin our journey towards season 4, what is changing is the design and the nature of conversation that our listeners will be able to hear. But what is not changing is our fundamental belief for this podcast, that it is through these stories we are wanting to create an experience to discover the extraordinary in the ordinary. Through simple, heartfelt stories, which has touched the lives of many people. It has touched my life, it has touched your life.
Definitely.
So, friends, right now, this is a pit stop conversation that we have had with you. Just to say that we are taking a short break to bring a new season 4 for you very soon. So, friends, stay tuned, and while we are away preparing ourselves for our season 4, all the current 75 episodes are available on your preferred podcast platform. They will be available whenever you want to listen to them. Again, any episode you want to revisit and listen once again, they're always there for you to access. So once again, a big thank you to everyone who has been with us, supported us. A big thank you to all our guests who have come on the show. And what shall I say? Take care.
See you soon.
And see you soon. Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.